Hey everybody, Chris here. Welcome. We got a lot going on today, a lot to cover from Gary Gensler, the SEC, Bitcoin spot ETFs, and a lot of Dogecoin stuff still in the news, even though Dogecoin isn't really doing much. A lot of people are very interested in how Dogecoin is going to trade through October and the end of the year. So we got some price predictions to talk about as well. And how the trading of Doge is going and what could cause it to skyrocket. Yes, we'll always cover that. That's always a good one too. How's everybody doing? Jason, hey, good to see you. And let me jump down in the corner and we'll just get right into it. This is the Dogecoin chart here at 6.03. That's right, 6.03. Yesterday we had another dip below 6 cents. No white circle there, meaning I didn't buy any more for our portfolio there. I was actually out yesterday evening and wasn't able to make a purchase, but there could be more opportunities to buy Doge at a low price and maybe even lower. We'll be looking at that in a little bit as well. Overall, this morning we had a little pump in Doge. We had a pump in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's was a big pump. And then it came crashing back down. People talking about, well, what caused that? Well, I think, and this is just me, but I think we had anticipation of Gary Gensler's testimony in front of the House Finance Committee. And what you do is you got whales starting to buy, right? And then the price comes up, and then over here, then you have retail traders saying, whoa, look at Bitcoin go, right? And they start trading, and then the whales dump and they sell. Or it's shorted, right? And you get the shorters coming in, short it back down. And look at that. And this is right when Gary Gensler was testifying and basically saying bad things about crypto. So I think that's all that was. There was nothing else driving this, other than overall still bearish sentiment in the markets. The stock market was trading down as well. So this coincided with that as well. So yeah, not quite time for a bull run yet. So, hey Mars, how are you? You bought more Doge, 5.9. Very good. So as we zoom out, we look at the daily, we're just stuck with just more sideways, get some up and down. That's the Bitcoin chart. And here's the Doge chart. Sideways, but a little more down with Doge. So, so Doge is, yeah, Jason, Doge is dipping a little more. But that's what we've got. So, hey, Ghostly, it takes a special breed to be a constant shorter. It does. Money to be made, though, in a bear market. And the shorters do it. They love bear markets. So do they turn around and they become bulls in the bull market? they probably trade leverage, right? They trade long on leverage in the bull market. So they make money both ways. Always at a risk, though. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. So what happened today? Yesterday, we had the House lawmakers pushing the SEC, particularly Gary Gensler, to approve spot Bitcoin ETFs immediately. So a letter was sent from 4 members of the House Financial Services Committee to the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, saying, just approve these things. You don't have any reasons to not approve them. But there's this process that these spot ETF applications go through, and they can be extended twice. And so they've already gone through the first deadline where there was an extension. And now for a couple of these, the SEC has now delayed them a second time. Even ones where they didn't even have to make that decision about extending a second time until November. I think the SEC did that because there's this looming US government shutdown. And if the government shuts down, we don't know for how long. They wanted to be ahead of the game. Because Gary Gensler said today, 90% of the staff of the SEC is not essential. And so not essential means they're not coming to work. And we don't know how extended this probable US government shutdown is going to be, because certain lawmakers have tied this extension of funding the government in with money for Ukraine. So politics being politics, it's not looking good. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So today we had this testimony, and Gary Gensler had his opening statement basically saying that the whole crypto industry is rife with hucksters, scammers, and all of that. And in order to protect the US investor, they need to clamp down. But then you had almost every congressman on the right just slamming Gary Gensler. And you had just about everyone on the left praising Gary Gensler for the great job that he's doing supporting the American investor. So that's how most of the day went. But there were a few particular ones, particularly Tom Emmer, accusing Gary Gensler of improperly regulating crypto to benefit large banking institutions. So he's basically coming at an angle like, look, you're looking out for the banks, where people who are investing in cryptocurrencies and actually working on projects with cryptocurrencies are taking their money out of the banks and they're putting it into crypto, in crypto development. And that's not good for the banks. It's supporting an alternate currency than the United States dollar, not good for the banks. So that was an interesting take. And at the end, basically, they're calling for possibly a subpoena against Gary Gensler for exceeding his authority as chair of the SEC. So we'll see how all of that plays out. But that was a big part of it. There was one thing, though, that Gary Gensler did say, and clarifying his stance on Bitcoin, stating that it is not a security. So that one he did agree with. But he wouldn't say that for anything else, nor when he was asked about this letter from these members of the House Finance Committee talking about accelerating an approval for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. He basically said, we'll look into it. Just no answer at all. So yeah, we'll review it. And that's how many of his answers were. throughout the morning and afternoon when it came to things he didn't want to talk about. And a lot of congressmen didn't like that. But what can they do, right? Gary Gensler doesn't work for Congress. Right? He's in the executive branch. The SEC's in the executive branch. So he's answering to Democratic leadership. So it's a tough situation. Well, we will see how all of that plays out, but that's kind of where that is right now. What does it mean for Dogecoin? Well, we had this morning this little pump in Doge, and it was like, is a new bull run starting? And if we look at the 15-minute chart, at that time this morning, Dogecoin was making a little run. Of course, again, Bitcoin's was a much greater run that was starting. But Doge was moving up, needed to come up to about 6.14 cents before starting that first retrace, second run, and then dump. And that's what Bitcoin had as well. A little retrace, second run, and then dump. So Doge still pretty much just following Bitcoin, not trading as volatile actually today than what Bitcoin was doing. So right now, if you look at Dogecoin chart and you look at the daily on the daily chart, and we look at the relative strength index down here, since the middle of August when there was the big dump in all the crypto market, the RSI has not exceeded 50 in over a month. It has been trading down. So one could see this as a sign that eventually there's going to be a reversal and Doge is going to go on a run. But some may see this as still in a bear market, still looking at high inflation, rising interest rates, sort of a looming recession, not only in the United States, but around the world. Some countries are already in recession, and it's just not time yet for things to turn around, meaning that this bearish market that we've been seeing throughout the summer could continue, even though Bitcoin to date from the beginning of the year is up like 50, 60%. Most other cryptos are not, particularly Dogecoin, which is down like 13% or so from where it was at the beginning of the year. So, but as I've shown, both in my fun video yesterday, if you didn't catch that, on my what if Michael Saylor bought Dogecoin instead of Bitcoin, and talking about if you had bought Dogecoin when Joe Biden took over the presidency on January 20th of 2021, where you would be today. And you would have so much more money and be in so much more profit if you had bought Dogecoin at those times as opposed to Bitcoin. So it's all in the timing. And we could be seeing even today where Dogecoin is down 13% year to date. Bitcoin is up over 50% year to date. So if you are buying today, what are you buying? Are you buying Bitcoin or are you buying Dogecoin? Some may think that there's a better chance for greater rewards buying Dogecoin at 6 cents as opposed to Bitcoin at $26,000. I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not telling you what to do, but I've been buying more Dogecoin. And we've also been doing that in our Kriss Pax DCA portfolio, which is here, and of which we have now almost 40% of the portfolio is Dogecoin. 10% is Bitcoin. So we have about 4 times as much Doge as Bitcoin on a dollar basis. We're still at about 6.6% cash. This is this USDT here. This is the cash position we're in. So we bought about 93.5% of the $10,000 of investment we are in crypto. Unfortunately, we're down 5.5% here. So it's about $578. We are now down. And unfortunately, as of now, our worst performer is Dogecoin because of this retracement back down to 6.03 cents where we are right now. So overall, we're going to watch this. When are we going to buy the rest of crypto with this 6.6%? We'll see. We'll see. Looking forward, well, investing $100 a week into Dogecoin in 2023, what would that be worth today? So if you had started at the beginning of the year and $100 every week, you invested into Dogecoin, where you would be. You would have invested 39 weeks in, $3,900. What would the value be now? $3,233. You'd be down about $700. So you would be down. That's about down 17% based on this model and when they were buying. Yeah, not been a great year for Dogecoin year to date. Again, it all depends on when you buy. If you're like Mars and you just buy it every time it hits 5.9, which is what I've been doing lately, then you're doing okay. But if you're buying a bunch at 7 cents, then you're down a little bit right now. Will Dogecoin get back to 7 cents? I certainly think so. It all depends on when you buy. So where are you going to buy your Dogecoin? That's a question. You can get Dogecoin, Robinhood, Coinbase, and Webull. I've bought Dogecoin on all three of these platforms. We've been using Coinbase for the purchases into this Kriss DCA portfolio, but I bought a bunch on Robinhood. I bought some on Webull as well. So I have links in the description for these below if you're interested. And you get little bonuses with each of them. So my little plug there. But one thing that these all need to have is they need to have reserves. So, and we've talked a lot about this, about reserves that they need to have on behalf of their customers. So for Robinhood, for instance, Robinhood owns at least 32 billion Dogecoin on behalf of its users that have bought Doge on the platform, and it's still sitting in their Robinhood app, and they haven't moved it, they haven't transferred it to a wallet. So that Dogecoin Robinhood has to have, and they get audited, and they need to make sure and show the auditors that they hold the Dogecoin. Webull, the same way. Coinbase, same way. If you just buy Doge on Coinbase, you just leave it on the exchange, Coinbase needs to have that much Dogecoin in their own wallets as reserves. I don't recommend keeping your Dogecoin on these exchanges. I recommend transferring them to a hardware wallet. So that is your Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever currency it is on your hardware device. This is my Ledger Nano S. This is the one that I recommend for Ledger. I have a link in the description below there if you want to check out Ledger. You don't have to sign up for that, backup of your seed phrase. I don't recommend that at all. You get your seed phrases, you write it down, and then you put that written down, list of words in a safe place is what you do. You don't put it in your notes app on your phone. You don't email it to yourself. You don't do anything of that, right? Yeah, write it down. Recommend that. So that's my little plug there. So this was an article about OKX. So not only United States, but worldwide as well. These exchanges need to show proof of reserve. And so here's OKX, and it has released its 11th consecutive monthly proof of reserves that shows that they have a balance of $11 billion in primary assets, with Dogecoin, they've got $187 million worth of Dogecoin. So some of those big wallets that we see holding Dogecoin, OKX is one of them. Now, they don't have to tell the public which ones they own, but the auditors need to know. So they show the auditors, yep, we have this much Dogecoin held on our exchange by users who have bought Dogecoin, and here's our wallets that show the proof of reserves. Coinbase is the same, like I said. Now, Binance, Mishabar on Twitter has been, or ex-Twitter has been trying to get Binance to prove the Dogecoin proof of reserves, and it's real Dogecoin and not some wrapped Dogecoin or paper Dogecoin or some other kind of Dogecoin. And Binance has not shown that publicly, although CZ has said they do, but that hasn't happened yet. So just an interesting thing about Dogecoin and cryptocurrencies for these exchanges, that more and more they got to be held accountable for audits and make sure that they actually have those cryptocurrencies, because we know what FTX was doing last year, right? They were using customers' money, right, to go do something else with it instead of holding all of that cryptocurrency in their wallets as reserves. They weren't playing that game. So the new laws are, yeah, you got to have the reserves. So kind of interesting. Yep. That's where regulation can be your friend. And that's a good step. I don't know where the SEC is trying to go with crypto regulation, though. I think they're going above and beyond what is going to be needed to help U.S. investors, right? But it's still out there. There's still a lot of scammers and hackers out there. And a lot of the innovation in cryptocurrencies, particularly like bridges between different DeFi protocols and things like that, that's where the hackers are getting in, is through that stuff. The developers just need to be they need to be better at creating these safe and secure protocols and bridges and other things. We know Dogecoin is safe. Proof of work cryptocurrency, just churning out new blocks, doing its thing. You can't hack it. There's nothing to steal. It's its own blockchain. So, okay. Top analyst says Shiba Inu will outrank Dogecoin next bull rally. How about this one? Came across this and I was like, Sheeb is going to overtake Dogecoin? What? Well, for those that don't remember, it happened before. Yes, it happened before. So if we go to the Dogecoin daily chart and we zoom out to include 2022, when Dogecoin was doing all this stuff, back to 2021 even, at the end of 2021, we know what Dogecoin did when it came up to 75 cents, traded all the way back down to like 16 cents, and spent the rest of 2021 trading between about like 20 cents and 30 cents. It's kind of where it was trading. At that time, Sheeb took off and came all the way up here to 0.0008. And when Sheeb hit that high, this was on the 28th of October, here's a screenshot of that from CoinMarketCap. Historical shot. This was actually October 27th. They only have these like at the end of each day. But it shows here Dogecoin is in 10th and Sheeb is in 11th. But the actual market cap of Sheeb was $31.5 billion. Dogecoin was $31.3 billion. So most of the day, Doge was above Shiba, but at the end of the day, Shiba overtook Doge. They just didn't flip those positions here. But I remember when that happened and Shiba overtook Doge, and the Shiba army was like all over Twitter posting that it had passed Dogecoin. So it did happen before, but what it took was this huge meteoric rise of the trading of SHIB, and it wasn't very long before SHIB traded back down. That kind of trading with SHIB could happen again. You don't know. Today, SHIB is number 17. It has a $4.2 billion market cap now. So it went from 35 all the way down to 4. Dogecoin's is at 8.5. So Dogecoin's market cap is double what SHIB's is right now. It's double. So for SHIB to overtake Doge, it needs to do double the gains of what Dogecoin does at some point in time. That'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. The thing that kills me looking back, though, at this history are some of these other coins, though, and what their prices were. Particularly Algorand here at number 20 was at $1.78. $1.78 for an algo token. And where is it now? Ooh, you got to scroll way down for Algorand. Way down. Algorand is not doing well. Here's Algorand, 45th. 9.4 cents. From $1.78 all the way down to 9.5 cents. That's pretty tough. Could Algorand trade back up to $1.70? I know there's a lot of people who'd be very happy if it did. But they've also, since then, over the past 2 years, they've released another 1 billion algo tokens. So there have been these releases, and that's why a lot of the price has dropped down, because they went from about 6 point something algo to now 7.8. 7.8 billion algo tokens. So with those releases of those additional tokens, investors were just not happy. A lot of selling going on. So that's not great. So where are we now with Dogecoin? Can the price overcome its bearish trend? Well, what we've been watching and what these guys were even watching here on BN Crypto with this chart is a very similar chart to what we have. This bottom right here, this 6 cent bottom, is such a strong support. So strong support that every time Doge dips below, it just gets eaten up in buys. Some will say that with this latest, let me go back to the Dogecoin chart and come back here to the 15-minute, that this latest drop that we had here yesterday ate up more of that demand for Dogecoin at 5.95 cents. That demand keeps getting eaten up, where eventually Doge is going to drop there and there's going to be no more demand. And Doge could then drop further. That's the challenge of this sort of repeated of these repeated drops down below 5.9 cents. Oh, got a fire engine just went by my house. Hope everyone's okay. So that's what. So that's a challenge that Dogecoin might have. So, what does Romeo say? They're trying to keep the price low so that they accumulate more and more. That's pretty much a lot of what people think about Bitcoin, and the altcoins just hurt more than Bitcoin does when Bitcoin is suppressed. But then you also have these token things like I just showed you with Algorand, that with all of those additional tokens, that the price just goes down. And same with like optimism. A lot of people talking these great things about optimism, but they keep unlocking more tokens. That's not good for the price. With Doge, we know how many coins are being released through the mining of additional coins. That's Dogecoin's inflation. That's how it works. Bitcoin's inflation as well, but Bitcoin slows down every 4 years because of the halving. So we talk about these 4-year cycles. And those 4-year cycles are still important when you're looking at trading ahead for cryptocurrencies for the rest of this year and then into next for the halving. So here's Dogecoin. Will Doge rally by the end of 2023? So this is what we're wondering, right? Is there going to be a rally? How's Dogecoin going to trade through the end of this year? Currently trading at 6 cents. It's been among one of the least performing cryptocurrencies of 2023. Unfortunately, that is true. It's barely spiked in price. The hype surrounding the coin is kind of fizzled out this year. We're all in this wait and see mode. That's kind of what's been keeping Dogecoin afloat, is what's Elon going to do next? SpaceX, Twitter, Tesla, what's going on? So every time there's a dip with Bitcoin, Dogecoin tends to just go down a little bit more. And Dogecoin needs one of these big catalysts for it to rocket back up. So a lot of people just hodling and waiting to see what happens. The meme currency remained on the back foot all 3 quarters of the year, leading to losses. Can Doge turn the tables for the last quarter of 2023 and begin to rally again like it did back in 2021? Well, 2021 is only 2 years ago, not 4 years ago. You got to look back 4 years to look at the patterns of the trading, because it's all tied in with Bitcoin and the 4-year cycles. That's how cryptocurrency has traded in the past. Does that mean that that's exactly what's going to happen in the future? We don't know that, but there's a lot of us that are pretty much betting on it, accumulating in the bear market, knowing there's going to be a bull market ahead. Now, with the bull run, as Edgar's saying here, the bull run prediction, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that there's going to even be a bull run, right? We don't know that, right? Heavy regulations, something else really negative in the crypto markets, that could hurt, that could happen. But the history has shown us, and as I've shown this before, we've got these 4-year cycles. And every 4 years, we get these consistently green months. This is the Bitcoin returns. 2021, I mean, look at this, 12% return in January, 34% in February, 18% in March. This was on the heels of the end of 2020, 29%, 43%, 53%. Huge bull market. And the same thing had happened 4 years prior. So every 4 years, we get these great gains. So you can't compare Dogecoin trading in 2023 with what Dogecoin did in 2021. We look at Bitcoin in October 2021 was up 27%. Well, that's not, you got to look back to 2019. 10% gain for Bitcoin. That could be more what could be realistic. And we could have a down November and a down December. There are some actually thinking that because we have a green September, which is the first time in the last 6 years, and it's not really that green, it's only 1.5%. October, we may see a dip just because of everything else that's been going on in the economies around the world. So that's not great. And then you've got in this article, they're looking at Changelly, and I've looked at the Changelly site before. And what Changelly is predicting, if we look at the Changelly site, Dogecoin price prediction, they're looking at, here we are near the end of September, they're looking at a dip into into October, that's going to come down to like 5.5 cents and possibly dip down to 5.2. They're looking at kind of the same thing I am, that all of these hits right at 6 cents, 5.9 cents, could lead to a bigger dip. And that bigger dip could coincide with Bitcoin. It could coincide with the stock market. If we see a big, black day on the stock market, crypto being a risk-on asset could fall as well. I'm just saying, these are the kinds of things that other people are putting out there. It's not all dog to the moon, as Romeo says. It's going to be a little while, and we might have some more pain we have to get through, unfortunately, in order to get there. So it's not all rockets and moons. There's just going to be a little more pain to go through. So what am I doing? Well, I've got this 6% of USDT sitting here waiting to buy into this portfolio still, cash on the sidelines. And we'll hold that cash and see if we end up mid-October with some big dip like that. Always good to have a little dry powder just in case we see that. Yes, we had been buying at 5.9 cents and a little bit at like 6.05 we had bought recently. And now for the rest of it, going to wait for that big dip. Now, if the big dip doesn't come, and instead of this downturn, we have prices going up, it's like, great, because I've got 94% of this portfolio that will all be making gains then. Woohoo, right? So that's what's going on. Romeo says, I hear Bitcoin supply is low. Yeah, I saw that on George shows that on Cryptos R Us on his live streams. He shows the decreasing supply of Bitcoin on exchanges. Yep. That scarcity in Bitcoin eventually is going to lead to, when Bitcoin does start to take off, and not just this little thing we had this morning, which on, here's the 4-hour chart where it just went up and then right back down, right? It's going to keep going up because it's going to reach a point where people aren't going to be selling. They're not going to be selling. And these little games of, buy a bunch, make the price start to go up, retail FOMO's in, and then they sell and short to get the price to come back down, which is what this was this morning, I think, was exactly that. That's not going to work because you're going to end up with so many more buying and buying and buying. And the scarcity is going to get less and less on Bitcoin. And that price is just going to keep going up. That is going to happen. And when that happens, you get pretty much the rest of the crypto market following, unless you've got just a terrible, coin that doesn't deserve to go up. Because there'll always be some of that manipulation of different coins and tokens and things like that. But for the most part, when Bitcoin goes up, the rest of the crypto market goes up with it. The same thing happens in the stock market too. The stock market, you can have a green day and you can have a red day. Well, when you have a red day in the stock market, right, that doesn't mean those companies aren't doing bad. It's just the outlook of the overall market, the sentiment of the overall market in terms of, the economic conditions, inflation, outlook of economies looking forward. And if things are looking really bad, the whole stock market will go down. Even companies that are actually in profit and doing very well, their stock price will still go down. Same thing with crypto. Same thing happens. People always wonder, well, why do they all move together? That's markets. That's how the markets work. Right now, crypto is just continuing to get beaten down by Gary Gensler. And we still have this overall economy, recessionary, high inflation, high interest rates. That's not good for people having extra money to put into crypto. So you don't have a lot of buying in crypto. We have to get through all of that. So to get back to Edgar's question here, the start or the middle of 2024. Typically in Bitcoin's history, what we have had in halving years, the last halving was 2020. We had a big January, and then going into the halving, we had red. February and March. But then things turned around, up 31, up 6, down 10, up 22. Go to 2016, same thing, down 15, up 17, down 4, and then bull market takes off. Up 8, up 16, up 25. So, yeah, I would say mid-2024, we're in a bull market. That is what has happened before. So I'd be looking April to May 2024. Now, Dogecoin can always trade differently. If there's a SpaceX Doge 1 mission, Dogecoin is going to go on a run of its own, independent of what Bitcoin is doing. So we could see that. I don't know about government shutdown. It's not going to have any effect. It's not going to have any effect on cryptocurrency. Crypto is just going to do what it does, regardless of the U.S. government shutdown. It's just going to be trading sideways. Much of it might mirror the stock market, and we'll see how the stock market reacts. Like if the NASDAQ is dropping, we could see Bitcoin drop, and then cryptos will follow that. That could happen. But we're not going to know that until this weekend. And so it'll be next Monday will be the trading day. And if the US government is in a shutdown and next Monday ends up being a Black Monday and there's a big dump in the stock market, yeah, crypto is probably going to go down too, unfortunately. So that's looking into next week. Until then, I think we're just going to be chopping sideways again. We had this little run this morning, traded right back down, and now we're back sideways. Bitcoin at 26.2 and Dogecoin, you're just above 6 cents. I don't like this above 6 cents where it is. I'd rather have it at least up here, like 6.1, 6.2, but it is what it is. Let's go to the 2-hour chart and you can see. So this doesn't look very promising here. But we had this drop down below 6 cents and it came right back up. So if we see that again and it comes right back up, that's a good sign. If it comes back down and it stays down below 5.9, then we're starting to look at a possible Doge dip into the mid 5s, which is what Changelly is looking at. That drop into the mid 5s. So 5.6 down to 5.5. Unfortunately, that's where we are in the markets, and the markets are going to decide that. So we just have to kind of ride it out. Some of you are continuing to DCA, buying on the dips. I'm doing the same. I believe in the crypto markets going forward, particularly, yes, Bitcoin supply is going to continue to get lower. And as that happens, Bitcoin will probably be going up in price. we get those spot ETFs approved, let's say January or March of 2024, Bitcoin price is going to go up. Depending on what's happening in the rest of the world in terms of economy, if we start to see some turnaround happening while those ETFs are getting approved, then you've got the BlackRocks and the Vanguards and Grayscales and all those big financial institutions that have this long client list, billions of dollars under management, and now they can offer that exposure to Bitcoin. And remember, for those Bitcoin spot ETFs, let's say for Vanguard, every Bitcoin that's part of an ETF that they have one of their clients buy, they need to have in reserve that Bitcoin. So, $1 billion under management, let's say 10% wants exposure to Bitcoin. That's $100 million out of every billion of their assets under management wants Bitcoin and buys into their Bitcoin spot ETF. They need to have $100 million of Bitcoin in a wallet somewhere. Many say they've already been accumulating Bitcoin at lower prices and they have a lot of this Bitcoin already. Maybe. But if it really takes off and you get more and more people, not only Vanguard, but we're talking Vanguard, we're talking Grayscale, we're talking ARK Invest. And Kathy Wood, she's in on this too. And hers might actually be the first one that gets approved because she's the first one who put in an application. And as Jason says, that Bitcoin ETF will pump the crypto market. Most likely it will. Some people may say, oh, we're already pricing it in. It's eventually going to be approved. So that's what's keeping the Bitcoin price up at 26,000. It should actually already be much lower. But because of this anticipation that these Bitcoin spot ETFs will be approved, that's keeping the price up here where it is. I don't know. But yeah, as Jason says, big hedge funds will flood the market. Bunch of rich people who put all of their money with financial advisors, right? These financial institutions, they're not going to join Coinbase, right, and buy on their own, right? They have their financial guys do all of this for them. They just call them up or send them an email now and say, get me 10 Bitcoin. And they'll do that. That's what'll happen. So Kriss asks, so what would have happened to the price of Doge if Mark Cuban would have bought the whole amount of Doge? Well, that was my thing from yesterday was Michael Saylor, right? What if Michael Saylor bought Dogecoin? You should watch that video if you haven't already. That's on my channel because I sort of go through that. How much, MicroStrategy is actually down $500 million. They're right now at a loss on their Bitcoin because their average price of Bitcoin should be $29.5. That's what they bought it at, and Bitcoin's only at $26.2. So they're at a $500 million loss. If they had instead bought Dogecoin, and I went through and I looked at all of the purchases of when they bought Bitcoin, and I instead put that into Dogecoin, they would have been up like $19 billion. They'd be in the positive. Unfortunately, there's not enough Dogecoin for all of that. There's not enough Doge. Would have bought it all back in 2019 or 2020, would have bought all the Dogecoin. If he had bought all the Dogecoin, then there's no markets. And somebody else had asked that question too. Right? There'd be no market for Dogecoin then. If you wanted to buy some Doge, you'd have to see if Michael Saylor was willing to get rid of any of his because he owns it all. Well, the one thing about Dogecoin is, more Doge just keeps getting minted whenever there's transactions. But if they bought it all, there's no more transactions. So there's no more mining. All the miners go away. So that's not good. It would kill Dogecoin is what it would do. It would kill it. A proof of work cryptocurrency needs to have transactions to stay alive. For a long time, Dogecoin was just hardly doing nothing. 2018 into 2019, there was not a lot of transactions going on with Dogecoin. It was just kind of sitting there. The price wasn't moving. Nobody was buying it. Nobody was selling it. But that all changed in 2020 and then into 2021. That all changed for Dogecoin. So yeah, pretty exciting. So watch that Michael Saylor video if you haven't already. It's a fun one. It's a fun one. But here we are with Doge right now, 6.03 cents. And if there's a dip back down below 6 cents, we'll see if it gets eaten up. We will see. So Jason asks, Doge has a scarcity. It's not an annual resupply, Jason. It is a continuous resupply that happens every minute of every day, because those are the inflation of Dogecoin are the rewards to the miners for validating transactions on the blockchain, is what that is. So that resupply isn't like at the end of each year or once a year. It's every minute of every day. More Dogecoin comes into creation. That's how it's set up. If there were no more transactions, like Kriss was saying, right? If like all the Dogecoin was bought up and there were no more transactions, there'd be no more Dogecoin being minted. There'd be no more mining. There's no transactions to validate, so no new Dogecoin would be minted. So that's how it works. So we like active trading of Dogecoin. Yes, it mints more Dogecoin faster, and there's a limit as to how much. There's a max limit that is put on there. So many per minute can be minted, and it can't exceed that. So that kind of can slow things down. And we saw that back at the end of January of 2021, when there was so much trading of Dogecoin going on that the miners couldn't keep up. Because there is somewhat of a cap there with the heavy trading of how many Dogecoin can actually be minted each minute. And it hit that the end of January of 2021. So we will sell sometime. There will be some selling of Dogecoin. Right now, there's not a lot of people selling their Dogecoin. They're holding, waiting for what happens going forward. That is what I think is helping keep the Dogecoin price up as well. Yeah, you've got some traders, but there's some negative people out there that think Dogecoin is going to drop. I hear it all the time. Oh, Dogecoin's going down to 3 cents. Dogecoin's going down to 1 cent. I don't think there's enough selling pressure for Dogecoin to drop that low. Even if Bitcoin dropped back down to 15K, I don't see Dogecoin going below 5 cents. So Ariel asks, if Gary Gensler says Bitcoin is not a security, does that mean we don't have to pay taxes on it? No. It's still taxable. Like buying and selling commodities are taxable. So I think it's still taxed as an asset. So profits you make on it are still, in the United States, are still considered long or short-term capital gains. So, yeah. Unfortunately. We love our taxes here in the United States. We love our taxes. Yep. All right, gang. So that's where we are right now. We'll be watching the Dogecoin and Bitcoin trading. For tomorrow, we'll have another video tomorrow, and then we'll be live on Friday night. It'll be late Friday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Just the later times on Fridays have been great, getting some different people exposed to Kriss Back's channel and talking Dogecoin at a different time, because not everyone can make it at this 5 o'clock time that I do on Mondays and Wednesdays. So look for that Friday night. Also, if you haven't already, hit the like button. Appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate that. So I hope you all are well. We will see you next time.
Dogecoin, which started as a complete joke, has like skyrocketed to not a joke anymore. It hit an all-time high of almost 10 cents yesterday, but it was so minuscule you wouldn't have understood why you have millions of shares.
Didn't Elon tweet that too?
And arguably, the most entertaining outcome and the most ironic outcome would be that Dogecoin becomes the currency of Earth in the future.